I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I've had plenty of gaming enjoyment in replaying old classics I poured hours into back in the day, or playing a title deliberately crafted to present a facsimile, whatever, of retro gaming, either aesthetically or in the themes and mechanics. If I were a fish, then nostalgia would be my bait of choice. So when I finally got around to playing the 2016 remake of Ratchet and Clank, a modernized recreation of the best parts of the old Ratchet and Clank games that I played heavily during my teens, I was gladly strung out on nostalgia, tripping nostalgic balls, if you will. I enjoyed it enough to do a review on it. It was the first review I did for this channel, so it's rough around the edges, but take a look if you want to hear my full thoughts on the 2016 remake. It'll be linked in one of these corners. I don't know which one. Don't worry about it. I'm also a sucker for bright, shiny new stuff. You see, I'm a caveman at heart. Bright and sparkly stuff make me go, ooh. So does fire, flashes of light, and explosions. I'm easily excitable, and all you really have to do is hit me with some stimulation, and I'm generally in. And this is definitely true of games. Is there a spectacle? You have my attention. Do we go fast and do death-defying deeds? Tell me more, good sir. Are there bright flashing lights and things going on around me all at once, rapidly and intensely, and I have no idea going on, and honestly it doesn't matter because I love it? Is there, dare I say it, explosions?
I'm here to ask you one question and one question only. Explosions?
Shut up and take my money.
Understanding all of the above, it's safe to say I never had a chance against Ratchet and Clank Rifts Apart. And side note, yes, I know it's Rift Apart, but I'm gonna say Rifts Apart because I've been saying Rifts Apart for basically the entire time that it's been out, or even before then, really. As soon as I heard about it, I've always called it Rifts Apart. I found out literally like 2 days ago that it's actually Rift Apart. Get off my nuts, I don't care. Anyway, it just brings together too many things that make my caveman brain go why can't I make a burr sound? Between the nostalgia of a franchise that I've loved for years that has faithfully stuck to its roots, and the systems and mechanics, design philosophies, and attention to detail and quality that Insomniac Games has become absolutely renowned for, and the leap forward in technological prowess and fully harnessing the power of the newest generation of console hardwares in the PlayStation 5, and all the glitz and glamour and glorious explosions that entails, I couldn't have possibly done less than love the newest entry in the franchise. Rift Apart, above all else, is a fantastic showcase of what the PlayStation 5 as a platform and what Insomniac Games as a dev studio and an team of artists are capable of. From the jaw-dropping, dense graphical and visual spectacles bleeding out of every pore of the game, to the art design that continues to impress with its fanciful creativity that would put Pixar's best to shame.
Nothing nefarious will befall you, we promise.
To the engaging set pieces and gameplay mechanics that tweak and refine the Ratchet and Clank formula to perfection.
Is a vague and fleeting measure. Destruction is our natural state.
What is he, the breaker now?
I see a fellow broken one.
Ah!
You must accept your brokenness.
Ah!
Rifts Apart really was the first true next-gen game to release for the PlayStation 5 that felt like it was tailor-made for a new console generation in a way that wouldn't have been possible on the PlayStation 4. But amidst all this excellence, there were some drawbacks and shortcomings that I couldn't help but notice. Beneath the razzle-dazzle and bombastic explosions and larger-than-life action sequences and the particle effects, my god, the particle effects, I could see the first creeping signs of age. Rifts Apart sported the shiniest, most lovingly crafted face the franchise had ever shown to us, but the wrinkles and worn creases of age were there under all the glamour. Much like myself, Ratchet and Clank are getting old. Insomniac games stand out to my mind for the spaces they fill with nuanced, small details. From the Marvel Spider-Man series to many moments of Ratchet and Clank games, and undeniably featured in Rift Apart, the way that Insomniac games populates its spaces with rich details, densely packed with people, creatures, personal belongings, vehicles, and all manners of clutter, is up there with the best in the industry in terms of building believable worlds. The virtual landscapes that Insomniac games design feel lived in. And whether it's the homeless shelter that Aunt May works in, or the massive crowd gathered to launch an interplanetary celebration in Ratchet and Clank's honor, I feel like I could easily walk into these holistically imagined realms and feel overwhelmed and panicked by all of the people because I'm an introvert, and even looking at fictional places this packed with people is a nightmare. But I digress. There's certainly bigger spectacles than simple crowds and planet-wide parades in Rifts Apart. During the course of our adventures, we encounter impressive displays of cutting-edge lighting and so much particle effects filling the air, from explosions and shattered boxes, bolts by the hundreds bouncing around as Ratchet gathers them up, and so much of the environment itself being decimated by non-stop gunfire and massive explosive detonations that I'm honestly surprised that Ratchet and the player themselves don't choke on all the small particle debris in the air. Clank is safe because he's a robot and he ain't got no lungs, Lieutenant Dan. That's my Forrest Gump impression. Fuck off, I know it's bad. Eye-catching, riveting moments, did you see what I did there? Take the form of large-scale set pieces, traversals across sprawling planets using a wide variety of methods, including rail grinds, hook shots, dimensional rifts and warps, runaway snails the size of a horse, rocket-powered skate boots, and a fire-breathing alien lizard named Trudy.
Oh, what's that you say there, Trudy? You want to help Rivet find them?
These, along with puzzle segments with Clank and shooting gallery side quests with Glitch, a microscopic spidery robot tank on a quest to exterminate virus programs while discovering her own strength and self-confidence. And no, I didn't make that up. Even I'm not that cracked in the head.
There are viruses here? I don't have the training for this. Test deleted. I did it! Oh, man! I really... Wow!
Break up the game loop of combat, planetary exploration, collectible hunting, and weapon upgrading. This and other short but satisfying content make up the roughly 15 hours it will take most players to complete the main story and most major optional content, although completionist runs will take 18 to 20 hours to round up every last bit of morsel the game has to offer. Rifts Apart checks all the major important boxes of a quintessential Ratchet and Clank experience, and it checks it with the most bold and confident metaphorical pin the franchise has ever brought to the table. Combat feels streamlined with the best, most mobile version of Ratchet we've seen yet, who ducks, dodges, jumps, rolls, somersaults, teleports, climbs, rail grinds, swing shots, and shoots some of the most deliciously destructive guns and weaponry we've seen yet in the series. And with the absolute legion of bots, aliens, mercenaries for hires, and rampaging T-Rex lookalikes coming your way, it's absolutely a necessity for Ratchet and Rivet to feel quick, responsive, and explosive, because there is a lot coming your way throughout the game. Though, like most Ratchet and Clank games, I would hesitate to ever call the game difficult even when the intensity starts to climb. Rivet and Kit are a nice addition to the cast of characters and round out the storytelling quite nicely.
I am Truly, I am sorry, Rivet. For everything. I am not a good partner.
Well, maybe you could be. If you'd stopped to help me that night instead of running away, things could have been different. Or if you just told the truth, maybe...
Why do none of you understand? I am broken. I will always be broken.
Our tried and true duo of Ratchet and Clank are long-standing characters with strong established backstories, character arcs, and developments. We're already familiar with the back and forth banter of their friendship.
I fear the dimensional cataclysm is getting worse.
Well, the sooner we find Pierre, the sooner we can get to fixing all of this. Somehow.
We will find a way. Like always.
And I've seen them go through their share of bumps, arguments, disagreements, and misunderstandings through the many adventures in the series. At this point, short of retconning much of the already established story beats from previous games, unexplored territory for the relationship is fairly limited. Rivet and Kit breathe fresh air into the story as their relationships both with Ratchet and Clank and each other is entirely new and unexplored, which gives an added space for exploring new interactions and dramas while also keeping Ratchet and Clank's pre-existing relationship and history of friendship stable and consistent. While I appreciate the much needed depth and variety that Rivet and Kit brought to the storytelling aspects of Rift Apart, unfortunately their addition did practically nothing to expand upon anything else in the game. This is unquestionably the biggest missed opportunity in Rift Apart. We have entire secondary characters in Rivet and Kit that we spend around half of the playable game with, and from a gameplay perspective, they literally are just reskinned Ratchet and Clank. Any variants between Ratchet and Rivet are entirely cosmetic and story-based, and while both are very well executed, when we get to gameplay they have zero distinguishable features. Not only do they not have unique abilities or gameplay mechanics, they share the same weapon and gadget pool, to the point that when one of them acquires a new weapon or piece of gear, so too does the other, even though they are visiting separate planets and don't cross paths until well past the midway point of the game. They share the same level progressions on weapons, the same upgrades and mods, literally everything. This is frustrating as it was so obvious to me how much making these two characters have some distinct unique abilities, weapons, loadouts, hell, even animations to set them apart would have improved the overall gaming experience. Giving Ratchet and Rivet unique and self-contained, if interwoven experiences from a gameplay perspective instead of keeping these limited to a narrative alone, would have emphasized and reinforced an aspect of the narrative that gets somewhat lost in the course of the telling: the ways in which Ratchet and Rivet are different people. Not to contradict myself, but Ratchet and Rivet are essentially the same person. They're each the other side of a shared coin, interdimensional doppelgangers if you will. They're the same core person across alternate dimensions.
For the record, I found him like this.
Come on, I knew you wouldn't hurt Clank. Pretty sure you're me, after all.
Wait, what makes you so sure you're not me?
Well, I mean, come on,
You got nothing.
yeah, I got nothing.
And the game shows them as being very similar, often having the same thoughts or ideas, or even going to say the same thing at the same time.
Sorry. Sorry.
But we know that Rivet has led a very different life from Ratchet in her dimension. In sharp contrast to Ratchet's dimension and the constantly bumbling idiocy of Dr. Nefarious, Rivet's version of Nefarious is actually a strong, charismatic, capable villain who amasses an intergalactic empire he rules over with a tyrannical mechanized fist.
Don't worry. I'll be hosting a viewing party of my victories in Sword
Come on, kid. We gotta...
These shifts and changes has molded and shaped Rivet differently as a person from Ratchet. And we see these changes in a narrative context, if occasionally more subtle and understated. What we don't see are any of these changes reflected in gameplay, and that is such a missed opportunity to marry gameplay to narrative themes as well as to give further depth and variety to gameplay that I'm honestly left scratching my head as to this decision to not integrate gameplay changes into a new character. With a lack of unique abilities and gameplay mechanics for Ratchet and Rivet, we likewise missed a great opportunity to interweave these two characters in gameplay, swapping from Ratchet to Rivet to overcome specific obstacles and puzzles, or make use of a specific gadget for traversal, or perhaps using the two characters in tandem in various ways to highlight their abilities to work together, showing their single-mindedness and highlighting their similarities and differences all at once. This would have given a nice feeling of teamwork and partnership to both narrative and gameplay. There was so much that could have been done just by introducing a bit of differences between these two characters on a gameplay level that would have enriched the game, the characters, lent more variety to gameplay mechanics, and tied many gameplay and story themes neatly together. This simple act of making two entirely unique characters with varied gameplay would have gone a long way towards shifting my underlying realization from Rift Apart. Ratchet and Clank are getting old. On the surface, Rift Apart of course has the freshest face of any entry in the franchise. And I'll never deny this is the most polished, well-crafted, tightly refined entry in the series. Rift Apart is an indisputably beautiful game. But if you put that aside, and believe me, that takes some doing, and you get down to the bare bones of the game, we're left with a formulaic Ratchet and Clank experience. Rift Apart is unmistakably Ratchet and Clank, and by that I mean it adheres to the tried and true Ratchet and Clank formula with the fervent faithfulness of a zealot. And don't get me wrong, this is great. There's many series, be they games, movies, comics, books, TV shows, or anything really, that departs drastically from its core formula that won them a fandom to begin with, and it ends up being the series' downfall. I'm glad that Insomniac Games didn't take that route and kept much of what has worked for them in previous games while polishing it to a blindingly brilliant shine. However, while I can appreciate that being the approach, I can't help but feel that some innovation is needed at this point in the franchise, especially for as significant an entry as Rift Apart was. The original Ratchet and Clank released in 2002 on the PlayStation 2. The series is 20 years old as of the recording of this video. In that time, the series has spanned a total of 14 games on various PlayStation consoles, with an additional 2 mobile games and a featured film. And while I haven't played all of the games in the series, I feel comfortable saying that while a few offshoots of the game have experimented with the Ratchet and Clank formula, such as All for One, Full Frontal Assault, Secret Agent Clank, and even to a degree Ratchet Deadlocked, none of the most fundamental entries in the series have strayed much at all from the core formula of the overall franchise. And fair enough, because we well know that a major change in a series can result in complete disaster. But for a series as old as Ratchet and Clank, some degree of careful, thoughtful innovation is necessary. I honestly enjoyed Rift Apart. If you have a PlayStation 5 or plan to pick one up at some point, it's a no-brainer purchase. It's a game that really sells just how much the console is capable of. My critiques here shouldn't downplay what a great experience the game is. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't taken aback by how many wrinkles and fine lines I see carved into the face of a franchise that I've enjoyed so much over the years. The series absolutely finds itself in need of some fresh new energy after 20 years. And I'm sure it's barely even apparent to someone who's just now coming into the series or has only been around for the last couple of games. But for an old fan like me, I can see it pretty clear. And the craziest thing is, Insomniac practically nailed it just by introducing Rivet and Kit. Just wish they had seen that potential through to the obvious conclusion. It would have been a great way of still keeping to the formula that the series was so well known and loved for, while still giving renewed life and vigor to an old favorite of mine just in time for a new generation of fans. Thanks for checking out my video. If you enjoyed this, be sure to check out some of my other reviews and essays. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and leave a comment telling me what your opinion is on this newest entry, and if you've been around for Ratchet and Clank's adventures as long as I have. For more gaming essays and reviews, as well as live streams and other gaming content, be sure to subscribe and turn your bell on. Thank you to my Patreons, who, although few, are the first to take a gamble on a walking beard making video game content ranting about his entirely unfounded opinion. Until next time, stay salty, nerds.
You're welcome.
Mort, break out the lemonade. We're getting crazy tonight.